Y'all need to help Stephen Phillips out over there. Out the door and off the radio.
Here's Stephen Phillips.
All righty, folks, this ought to be good. This next young lady we got on, Faith Hibbs-Clark, she can detect when people are lying, and she's actually in the business of teaching actors and all kinds of people how to do that while they're acting. And, man, the list goes on with the base film acting method. Good morning, girl. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited about this. This is so good. We had Greg Hartley on, which is a body language expert, and he's on the other side of it. He's trying to bust all these criminals. But you're teaching all these actors how to lie and use their body language. Tell us about that. This is so interesting to me.
Yeah, I've been working in the field of deception detection as a communications expert for almost 30 years. I always joke and say I must have started when I was 9 years old.
Right. There you
Bada
go.
boom, bada bang. So I was working in that industry. I worked with a lot of trial attorneys, working for the defense mostly, reading the body language of the jurors. And I also worked with a lot of CEOs. And later in that work, I started working with politicians. And politicians were particularly interested in my line of work because they wanted to reverse engineer the process. You see, the reason
politicians that want to lie.
Yeah, no kidding.
Tell me something new.
Well, that was just it. They came to me for that purpose. You know, how can someone, how can I help them to give their presentations and not appear as though they're lying? And I said, well, this is the easiest $100 an hour, because this was a long time ago, $100 an hour that I made, you know. Because what I said to them was, it's really simple, folks. Don't lie.
There you go. I'm with you on that. Honestly, but it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
So then I started looking at that, and I said, what industry out there could I do this type of work for, where I could reverse engineer it, but it not be so disingenuous?
Yeah.
And then it struck me that actors lie for a living, right?
Yeah.
So that is when I started taking this and putting this into the world of the entertainment industry.
I mean, this is great. You had Emma Stone was one of your clients?
I did. I worked with Emma Stone years ago, and she was the sweetest thing. She would literally bounce into my office. She was so excited to act. She loved every part of it. And one of the things I remember working on with her is transitioning her from the theater world. She did a lot of musical theater,
right.
Transitioning her from the theater world into the medium of film and television. And so I worked with her for on-camera communication. And obviously the rest is history, because she's an amazing and accomplished actress.
I'd say, I think she was one of the highest paid actresses at one point. She was one of the highest paid actresses out there, was she not? I'm thinking I might be right about it. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking she was.
Yeah, at least a couple of years ago when I checked in on it, she was the highest paid actress in Hollywood, and or actor, because we don't distinguish anymore between the genders. But she was an Academy Award winning actress. She's just, the thing about her is that she is her personality is so genuine.
Right.
So I certainly didn't have to work with her in her own life, you know,
right.
and trying to make her a better person. She really was the sweetest, and is the sweetest person out there, which is not always the case in Hollywood. I've probably heard other stories.
Yeah, we hear all kinds of them. Folks, go to, it's actually Communications Method for Actors, which is cmfatraining.com, and you can check out all the stuff that she's got going on, all the testimonials and all that kind of stuff. So now, how long have you been doing this with the actors? I mean, is this something you've been doing quite a while, or just kind of getting started?
Well, I got started with this. I went into casting. So when I left the deception detection industry, I went into casting. I just sort of fell into that. And that made a lot of sense as well for me, because I could tell a genuine performance from a not so genuine performance.
Right.
So that made a lot of sense. But one of the first things that I realized when I got into that industry is how nervous the actors were.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looked like they were in pain before they came in for an audition. And I completely understood that pain.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us do, because most of us are nervous at some point or another. So I understood that, but I also understood that there was a way to solve that pain, that there was a way to get around that and not be so uncomfortable on camera. And that was just these communication skills that I had taught politicians, that I had taught to federal agents, that I had taught to trial attorneys, CEOs. It's the same formula. What I did was I adapted it for the actor.
Right.
And making the actor feel more comfortable in front of the camera. That was the first step. And then I realized that if I utilized all the science that I knew and worked with in my old profession, if I just put that into one big formula, that would really help the actor be more believable. And so that was when the deception detection and the reverse engineering that the politicians wanted me to do, when that really came in handy.
I just think that's hilarious. She keeps bringing up the politicians wanting
Yeah,
to lie. This really works. And, of course, I talk about Greg Hartley. I mentioned him. He's with the behavioral panel. They actually, and this is where it comes from, they actually did a thing, during the Johnny Depp trial, and they actually did bits and pieces of the Johnny Depp trial. And they were talking about how hard it was to read Johnny Depp because he had this training you're talking about. So he could do all the facial expressions and all that kind of stuff. And it made it really difficult because, honestly, it's, people read body language. Is that not reason people that actually, when they see somebody and they just instantly don't like them right off the get-go, it's kind of, they read the body language. That's kind of right. Am I right or wrong on that?
That's absolutely correct. In fact, most of the communication process is done at the subconscious level. So about 95% of what we pick up about another person is nonverbal. It's something that we process at a subconscious level, but don't necessarily consciously know why. Like you said, when you meet somebody and right away you don't like them, you don't know maybe consciously why that is, but subconsciously you've read all of the micro expressions and the body language that went into that. And of course, that's always very difficult when that person's your mother-in-law. So.
Oh yeah, I'm just sitting there. Like I told Greg, I said, man, I'd hate to be your kids. You know what I'm saying? When you come in on a Friday night, like, what'd you do? Then you just read their language and be like, oh man, I got to fess up to everything I did wrong.
So I got a question.
It's so funny. I have 3 kids and they will tell you they can't get away with anything. They're all grown up now, but in those days, they definitely were, they had to work twice as hard as teenagers to get away with stuff.
My mom was a beautician. I know how that is because all them women that she cut their hair, they'd be spying on me all through town. So she'd find out before I got home. So anyway, Mike, you said you had a question?
Could you tell us about micro expressions?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
It's an interesting
Absolutely.
concept.
It's so funny. I throw these words around like I think everybody knows what they mean, but it's not necessarily something that we talk about on a regular basis. A micro expression is a tiny expression from your body. So, maybe it's a little snicker or a slight squinting of the eyes, but it only lasts for 1/10 of a second. So the person that you're interacting with is going to pick up on it at a subconscious level, but not necessarily consciously say, he snickered when I said such and such.
Right.
I think someone like myself, I pick up on them a lot more, but that was because I was trained to do that. Most people are so focused on the words that someone is saying that they don't see the micro expressions or otherwise the body language in general. If everybody saw people's body language, remember that body language is our first language.
Right.
It is our primal speech. A lot of anthropologists believe that we only invented language as a way to preserve resources and therefore deception. So our body language is our primal language. And when you dial into that, you realize that is what speaks the truth. And it all has to do with a lot of my background, my educational background is in neuroscience and working with the brain. And so when you realize that the brain is going to send messages to the body to show how you're feeling prior to you even forming a thought, because that's part of our primal brain, even before we form a thought. So our body is going to tell the truth even before that. And then we might have a thought and think, oh, you know what? I'm going to lie about this.
So do you think old people who become hard of hearing automatically or unconsciously hone their skills to read body language and micro expressions?
That's a really great question. And that's definitely very possible because we know that with people who are hard of hearing or even deaf, that they are dialing into other senses.
Right.
So whereas most of us will hyper focus on words, perhaps deaf people or hard of hearing people will hyper focus into the body language, or at least see it more, whether or not they interpret it the same way that perhaps an expert would, but they would at least be more conscious and perhaps more aware of it.
That's crazy. CMFAtraining.com. You can go check this out. You know, that's, you know, talk about body language and people don't realize it, but, and I'm speaking this as the truth. I've been married for a long time and I can read my wife's body language the minute I walk through the door. You know?
Sure, especially when that right arm of hers is coming at you.
Saying?
Right?
I can say, uh-oh, something ain't right.
Time to duck.
But I guess that's just, but I mean, it's true. I mean, really, I mean, you can, your spouse, I think you can identify pretty quick whether they're upset or not without even talking to them. And, but you take that into a different, or further on into other people's body language, which is hard to read sometimes. But now when you're training these people, I mean, do they catch on pretty quick about raising their eyebrows or their forehead? And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, do they catch on pretty quick to this, or is this something that takes a while to train?
They can definitely see immediate results from it because I have taken the hard work out of it and I've created these formulas. These formulas, like I said, are the same science-based formulas that I use with trial attorneys and federal agents and such. It's just that I've adapted it for the medium of film and television, and that's kind of key to the science. But they can see immediate results with those fast track formulas, and they pay big money for that because that takes years off of their acting training,
Right.
and has such great results that it's hard to argue with. And I always say it's not me, it's the science, right? I just put that together for you so that you can use science in your favor. But I do think that people sometimes are resistant to it. And the reason that they're resistant to it is because maybe they've been trained in a different style and they want to keep doing that. The problem with a lot of the acting methods is that they don't take science into consideration. So, for example, we have to take into consideration the way that the brain actually processes. And like I said to you before, body language is going to show first.
Right.
In real life, when we don't have a script, our body language is going to give us away. And that's true for the actor too. The problem is that actors are given their thoughts prior to them preparing anything else, right? So when they're given a script, they hyper focus in on that script because they've been given their thoughts. And in real life, which is of course believable, in real life, we're not given our thoughts. And sometimes I wish that we were. I sometimes wish we had a script for life, and you know that we wouldn't be in so much trouble in sometimes falling over our lips or saying the wrong thing. So, but actors are giving them their thoughts. So many times the actors are going to say those thoughts and then they think, oh, well, I've got to do a little something because I'm an actor.
Right.
And so they'll say the line and then they'll react after the fact. And the problem with that, and that's the way a lot of methods will teach it, the problem with that is completely not the way the brain processes. And like I said, the brain is going to send messages to your body to show how you're feeling, or in this case, how the character is feeling. Then you would form a thought. So one of the keys is remembering that science would say react first. So whereas a lot of people want to skip the body language entirely, there's a lot of methods out there that just say the words, you're enough. You're not enough. That you're enough as a human being, but you're not enough in your communication process to just simply say the words. Scientists will tell us that 85% of our communication is our body language, is our visual performance.
Wow.
9% is the meaning of words.
So let me ask you this. Now, if I wanted to
6% is how you say it.
if I wanted to take your course, I mean, do you do it, is it an online course or do I have to come to your location or how does that work?
Yes, it is online. Before the pandemic, I had only dabbled with being online. And then on the onset of the pandemic and with lockdown, I was able to fine tune that process
Right.
and put everything up online. And so now I have literally clients from around the world,
Wow.
which is super exciting.
So all they got to do is go to cmfatraining.com and they can log into that. That gives you all the store, the pricing, the whole 9 yards right there on that.
Yes, they can sign up, register, read more about it, all of that on that website. And they can also follow me on Instagram. I put a lot of little tidbits of information. So if they want to get a sense of my style and the science behind it, they can get some brain droppings in that medium as well. And so that's communication method for actors, and that's on Instagram.
All right. Well, girl, we have got to get to a break, and I'm telling you, this is very interesting. I want to have you back on. I'd like to have you and Greg Hartley on at the same time. I think that would be cool. Have two
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I love that body language stuff. I really do. I eat it up. I mean, I don't know why. It's just something.
Do we have
I
time
always
for
do.
one question?
Yeah.
Real quick. Have you ever had any like famous preachers, pastors take your course? I mean, I'm thinking about some of these guys on TV and.
I've never had them take the course, but one of the things I got to tell you that I can't
question.
do, I can't shut the skill off, which explains why I'm single. But at any rate, I sometimes when you're changing channels and I saw one last night, a matter of fact, I don't know who it was. It was some rally, and they had this preacher on there, and what I tend to do when I'm watching people is I tend to shut off what they're saying.
Right.
I tend to just shut that part of my brain off because I'm trained in body language, so I tend to read the body language, and then later, if I catch what I call a flag or an indicator, then I'm going to go, oh, okay, what did they say?
Right.
Because then that's probably what they're lying about. And I just thought to myself as I was watching this particular person, am I the only one that can see this? It was riddled with lies.
Oh no!
Riddled. I was like, "Wow, are you married?"
Brian, you don't.
Because
And they're talking to a room of hundreds and hundreds.
Brian, you don't live stream your show.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No,
Let's make sure it wasn't
no.
Brian anyway. All right, girl. We appreciate that. That's a heck of a question. But anyway.
Nothing against God, I'm just,
Oh, we
but I'm
love
just
him.
saying. You asked me about preachers.
That's
Yep,
fine.
preacher.
All right, girl. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, you take care. Thank you for spending a little time with us. And remember, you can tune in every morning at WJULradio.com at 8 a.m. Eastern. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook, The Morning Dish.